Now at 5, a rallying cry for action, a call for racial justice. Tens of thousands take to the streets for Juneteenth marches and celebrations. Good evening, I'm Jen Maxfield. David Ushery has the day off. 155 years ago today, enslaved black people in rural Texas finally learned they were free. 2.5 years after the Emancipation Proclamation. Juneteenth has been a day of joy and pain, usually marked with celebrations. But this year, it's a call to action, marked with marches and acts of civil disobedience. Rallies are taking place across the country, and they are notably more multiracial, similar to the protests that followed the recent deaths of black men and women at the hands of police. Mayor de Blasio announced he's making Juneteenth an official New York City and school holiday starting next year. He's also forming a racial justice and reconciliation commission. The goal, to tear down barriers and root out inequalities in housing, the criminal justice system, education, and more. Chopper 4 giving us a live bird's-eye view now of the protest. This is right by Washington Square Park. Dennis Protzko is in Chopper 4. Dennis.
Well, good afternoon, Jen. Yep, thousands of marchers and protesters here, both celebrating and acknowledging Juneteenth, as you mentioned, bring you out and show you this large group of at least 2,000 plus marchers that started earlier this afternoon in Foley Square, made their way through Lower Manhattan, now making the right-hand turn here onto West 4th, moving over towards Washington Square Park. And as I bring the camera over, we'll show you the additional 200 to 300 protesters that are over here as well. They'll be joining forces with this group in just a few minutes here at Washington Square Park. Again, peaceful and orderly all afternoon long. We continue to watch these groups march around Manhattan and also Brooklyn, a couple of dozen at least that we've noticed. So again, anywhere from groups of 200 to 300 to as many as 2,000 to 3,000 plus. So again, we'll continue to keep updated here and continue to watch these groups as they make their way through the 5 boroughs. And reporting live aboard Chopper 4, that is Protzko. Jen, back to you, the studio.
Dennis, thank you. Another rally is taking place right now across the Hudson in Hackensack. News 4's New Jersey reporter Pat Battle is there. Hi, Pat.
How you doing, Jen? Well, you know, there is absolutely no question that Juneteenth is a celebration. As you can see behind me, there's music, there is laughter, there is fun. But over the years, it has evolved to emphasize education and achievement. And this year, perhaps more than ever, it's about change and empowerment. As the clock struck noon, a caravan of more than 50 cars bearing signs of hope for a new America began winding its way through the city of Newark, past the Federal Building and City Hall, to champion the cause that has gripped this nation and a flashpoint of racial reckoning. The route ended here at Military Park, where the celebration of Juneteenth in many ways reflected that first commemoration in 1886. There were families and friends coming together, dancing, singing, and celebrating here, much like their ancestors did the year after Union General Gordon Granger brought General Order No. 3 to the island of Galveston, Texas. It declared that enslaved black people were slaves no more. Although Abraham Lincoln had signed the Emancipation Proclamation 2 years before, and the blood-drenched fields of the Civil War had been cleared for 2 months, Texas slaveholders had refused to relinquish their hold on 250,000 black lives. But this Juneteenth, acknowledging the past, converged with the present.
Dr. King, when he shared his dream, said that now is not the time to engage in the luxury of cooling off or to take the tranquilizing drug of gradualism. Now is the time to push harder. Not for the same reforms cloaked in new language, but for transformation.
That transformation reflected in the artwork that Paul Smith brought with him.
This is no longer, as Barack Obama said in the 60s, a black movement. This is a movement of the people, and it resonates that white folks are showing up.
But from Texas to Tulsa, site of the most vile racial massacre in history in 1921, when angry white mobs killed over 300 black people and burned their town to the ground, the lessons go untaught in our nation's schools.
American history is black history, and we need to come together. This country was built on our backs and on Native American land, so equality needs to come.
That we should just come in unity and be one, and just be one peaceful world.
One peaceful world from the mouths of babes, right? And if you look at this gathering behind me, you can see that it is multicultural. It's drawing people from all over this county, people of all races, all genders. And how you doing, sir? And everyone's getting together. But make no mistake about it, Jen, this is also a movement. There's a voter registration table here, and there are plenty of people lined up and signing up. Reporting live from Hackensack, I'm Pat Battle, News 4 New York.
A celebration indeed, Pat. Thank you. Well, controversy is heating up again over this statue of Thomas Jefferson inside City Hall, and that's not all. The city is launching a commission to uproot institutional racism. News 4's government affairs reporter Melissa Russo is in the newsroom with the story. Melissa.
Jen, the commission announced today it plans to conduct a truth and reconciliation process and explore various ways that city policies promote discrimination. That's according to the mayor's wife, Charlene McCray, who announced the news today.
From the parade of humiliations that declare we are worthless human beings to the systems that thwart the ability to accumulate wealth,
the full range of racist indignities is on the agenda, according to the city's First Lady. The new commission will let people share their experiences and suggest changes.
and make plain the truth that even in 2020, to be a person of color means to live a parallel existence with white New Yorkers.
We are saying officially we want the truth to come out in the open.
Mayor de Blasio taking another step to address racial injustice while also lending a platform to his wife as she considers running for Brooklyn Borough president. The new panel will also consider the demand from some council members to remove the City Hall statue of Thomas Jefferson because he owned slaves. The First Lady even seemed to hint at changing the name of Gracie Mansion, the historic house where she and the mayor live, because Archibald Gracie profited from the slave trade.
His wealth and prominence relied on the export of goods like cotton, tobacco, and indigo, all produced through the labor of people who were enslaved.
I think it is a time to evaluate the entire look and feel of this city.
The city's first black mayor, David Dinkins, today said he thinks these changes are a good idea. Constitutional history professor Robert Blecker disagrees.
Yes, Thomas Jefferson had slaves. So did George Washington and many other founders of this republic who fought for our liberty. We should add, not subtract. Let's erect a plaque contextualizing the person or event.
As we were first to report, the de Blasios in 2014 considered replacing many portraits of white men in City Hall, but never did. We also had the scoop when Charlene McCray replaced the art inside Gracie Mansion to achieve more diversity. At the time, her staff told us she was swapping out a portrait of George Washington for one of Pierre Toussaint, a former slave who became a philanthropist. But they later clarified that the portrait coming off the wall was actually of Archibald Gracie.
When there was a fight to save Columbus a few years ago in 2017, people were laughed at for suggesting that Thomas Jefferson and George Washington would be next, but yet here we are.
And recently, Mayor de Blasio said he stands by the decision of another one of his panels, and that decision was to leave the city's famous statue of Christopher Columbus in place. Jen?